We're Katie and Clint, and you're listening to the number one place for all your football recruiting news and prospect news across Canada. If you're listening to the show for the very first time, welcome. We're glad you're with us. Be sure to follow us on our Facebook, our Twitter @ChatFootball, Instagram CFC_football, and our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, as well as check out our digital store, which has some fantastic recruiting resources, such as our NCAA and U Sports recruiting guides, film analysis with Clint Utley, as well as we have some really cool CFC merchandise for sale. And this week we will be releasing a great new product that you really want to keep your eyes on, because I think it will really do a lot for the recruiting kids in Canada. So today we are doing our NCAA edition, and we've got Quincy Forde on the line, and Quincy tracks all of our Canadian prospects down in the NCAA. Quincy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're good. So we're going to be talking about another four of our CFC40 ranked prospects, and one who was a CFC 100 that we ranked in 2016. And aren't we just so excited that college football is back?
Yes, most definitely. I'm spending a lot of time on weekends watching it now again. Just looking forward to the SEC coming back and the Big Ten.
I know, the Big Ten, that was the big news of the week.
Yeah, no kidding.
When is the SEC playing?
The SEC starts
Is it next weekend?
They start this upcoming weekend.
Okay.
So,
yeah, we taped everything this weekend.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Even the bad games.
Yeah.
Katie's like a huge Clemson fan. So she's like, who is the Citadel? And then I was just like, yeah.
Oh, I watched the first quarter of that and then just turned it off. I could not bear to watch any more of that. Like, it was brutal.
It was a beatdown.
But they were classy. They kept it at 49 at the half, and they didn't do anything after that. So
Yeah.
Some other head coach other than him might have pushed it up into the 70. But did you see, like, the Citadel, like, one of their offensive tackles was 245 pounds?
Yeah, it was like the commentator made some reference to how normally offensive lines are heavier than defensive lines, and how it was the other way around in this game.
yikes.
Yeah, it was really bad. It was like, well, just imagine if you truly think about it. There was a dentist attempting to block an NFL first-round draft pick at every position.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dentists, lawyers, Army officers attempting to block first-round draft picks throughout the front seven,
Yeah.
which led to Citadel having negative 5 yards of offense at the half.
Oh, just
At least it's still football, though. There was a good game. The Louisville-Miami game was good. Outside of the fact, yeah. So
I didn't get to watch that one, but yeah, that was certainly a game that I would have liked to have watched.
Oh, it was good. Other than, honestly, the Louisville defensive coordinator, I'm sure, pretty much had a nervous breakdown throughout the course of the game. I think they blew 3 coverages that directly resulted in over 225 yards of offense. Mm-hmm. So 2 75-yard scoring plays.
It was brutal.
And, like, straight up, like, just the defensive backs just, like, how do you...
Wide open.
Yeah. In major college, how does a secondary not know how to adjust to, like, a trip set? Like, you got to be kidding. Fire the DB coach.
First week, fire the DB
coach. Yeah. Fire the strength coach because the cardio wasn't right.
Fire everybody.
Yeah, fire everybody.
Maybe it was the masks.
No, whatever. Anyways, I've gotten us off.
Quincy, did you, were there any other, like, before we get into these guys, was there any other really good games that you got to watch that you were really excited to see?
Well, in the morning, or just, well, not in the morning, at noon, I was watching the Oklahoma State game, but I'm assuming we'll touch on that later with one of our players, so I don't want to do much, because I might do some talking there. But one name who we aren't talking about today, who had a pretty good day yesterday, was Jared Wayne at Pittsburgh. I didn't watch that game because it was on at the same time as the Oklahoma State game.
Yeah.
But was their leading receiver. I think he had 5 catches for 59 yards or something like that and a touchdown. So he's a true sophomore, and he definitely made his mark yesterday against Syracuse, who is also loaded with Canadians.
Yeah, they seem to, in the most recent years, they've picked up quite a few Canadians. Syracuse has.
Yeah, they're some really good players.
Yeah.
And they got them from not all over Canada, but like Ontario, Quebec, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Eastern Canada, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, let's. You kind of segued in there with the Oklahoma State game. We're going to talk about CFC40. He's ranked right now, I believe, number 3 on our list. Chuba Hubbard. He's a redshirt junior. He's a running back. Obviously, he's becoming a household name. 6 feet, 208 pounds, according to his profile on the Oklahoma State roster. He is a good old Albertan, my home province. He is from Edmonton, though, so I'm a Calgarian. I'll just leave it there. But he goes to Bev Facey, or he went to Bev Facey. Anyways, he's a possible Heisman candidate. So definitely, this kid has made a name for himself. One of the top running backs in the NCAA, possibly one of the fastest running backs. Quincy, just break him down for us and tell us what you think about him and talk about the game this past weekend.
Yeah, obviously, he's a big name. Probably, well, yeah, definitely the biggest Canadian name in college football right now. Last year, he led college football in rushing yards with 2,094, and he was a Doak Walker Award finalist, which goes to the top running back in college football. Although Jonathan Taylor won it. Although I think Chuba got snubbed, but I might be a little biased. I don't know.
No, we're with you on that one.
And finished 8th in Heisman voting last year, like you touched on. But he's definitely a special player. He's going to be an NFL running back. He's going to be a day 1 or 2 pick. And there are 3 elements to him that kind of make him a great player. Obviously, he has the breakaway speed, and sometimes he can be seen as a one-trick pony, but I don't really think he is. If you watch him more than just his runs where he takes off for 80 yards, which he can obviously do with that probably 4.3 speed. He was formerly on the Canadian national track team. I don't know if I guess now it's all football for him. But he definitely has elite vision in the backfield. That's something I notice about him. He's patient behind his offensive line, but as soon as the hole shows up, he shoots right through it. And he's also quite powerful for a guy who's kind of looks like a little skinny as a running back, maybe, although he is 208, but he's definitely powerful as well. So it's not just the speed he has speed, vision, and power.
So he definitely is more. He's just a well-rounded player all over. Clint, what do you think about him?
I always liked him. I mean, I accidentally, back in the day when we only had the CFC 100, we only had one list and there was only 100 prospects on it.
Did you see him in grade 8 or grade 9?
Grade 9 from across Canada, and that 100 included the CEGIP teams, so you can understand how competitive the CFC 100 was back in the day. Maybe we should get back to that. Anyways, but we actually identified Chuba Hubbard. Did I call him Chuba back in the day?
Yeah, we all called him Chuba, but Chuba, yeah.
Chuba. So anyways, because it was only for the graduating players back then, so it was literally the grade 11s would go on our CFC 100, along with the juniors from CEGIP. And we accidentally put Chuba on the list when he was in grade 9. And somebody actually contacted us and said, you might want to take him off the list. He's only in grade 9. We were absolutely shocked. So it was him. Who was number 2? Chase Claypool was 2.
Chase Claypool was 2.
Yeah, because I remember Chase Claypool used to, maybe not him, maybe his parents, they would email us and complain about how Chase was ranked number 2 on our list and Chuba was number 1. And we kept trying to tell them how good Chuba was. But obviously a parent doesn't want to listen to somebody who does rankings tell them how another kid's.
And then Chase goes today and scores his 85-yard touchdown with Pittsburgh. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
Even more impressive from Chase today was Chase Claypool made 3 special teams tackles today, which is crazy. And not like just a tackle. Like he jacked up a dude at one point. So pretty sure Chase Claypool could probably be like a legitimate like number. Anyways, we're not talking about Chase, right, Katie?
I know. Sorry.
Talking about Chuba. Anyways, so.
But you said you think Chuba should have gone out this year.
I thought Chuba should have gone last year.
Last year.
Totally agree with what Quincy said. He totally got snubbed. Like the last time a dude ran for 2,000 yards at Oklahoma State, he actually won the Heisman and was a first-round pick. And like Chuba Hubbard goes over, almost hits 2,100, and like doesn't even win the award, the Doak, for basically essentially the best player at his position. So I thought that was a complete joke. Even though I think 2 of his big games, he had like 300 yards rushing or something. So if you subtract the 600 yards from the 2 games, maybe that brings that more into balance. But still, I mean, he was a redshirt sophomore last year.
Yeah, against Tulsa last year, he had 256 rushing yards, and Kansas State, he had 296.
Yeah,
That's insane, man.
it's insane.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed this weekend because I was watching him. Obviously, he's my favorite player in college football.
Mhm.
So I was watching him, obviously, and he was playing against Tulsa again, who he absolutely just torched last year.
Yeah.
But this year, it was so evident right from the beginning of the game that Tulsa's defense was so keyed on Chuba Hubbard, as I'm sure many defenses will be this year.
Yeah.
They're so much better prepared this year. So I doubt, obviously, that he'll go for the same rushing yards he did last year, just because he's going to be so keyed on by every defense.
Yeah.
But on top of that, he was even more keyed on this weekend because their starting quarterback Spencer Sanders went down in the first quarter, and I think it might have been in the first half of the first quarter. I don't remember, but they just locked on to Chuba Hubbard, and he only had 93 yards rushing. So
didn't he come on because he was kind of flat for the first bit, and then he kind of came on later on in the game, it seemed.
Yeah, he only had something like 30 yards rushing at halftime, so
they leaned on him in the second half, though. They were probably in panic mode with their quarterback out. And let's be honest, everybody's just gonna stack the box against Oklahoma State, even if doesn't matter.
Yeah, they put in their backup quarterback, and he was doing absolutely nothing. So then they turned to their third string quarterback, who's a true freshman, and he actually had a couple connections with their number 1 receiver, Tylan Wallace, and then the third string quarterback kind of brought the spark to that team in the game, and then from there they were smooth sailing.
Well, I mean, it's first couple games, and people are just still working out their schemes and their systems and their personnel, and so we'll keep our eye on him. But we're going to move on to the next guy, Alonzo Adai. He's a CFC40. We have him ranked at number 15 right now. He's a redshirt senior cornerback, 5'11", 190. He's from Ontario, Pickering. He's at West Virginia now. He's the starting free safety for the Mountaineers, I believe. He's looking to have an outstanding season. Quincy, tell us about him.
Yeah, he's a guy who, coming out of high school, he went to the Petty School, which is a common home for a lot of Canadians, and he had only 3 offers coming out of there, all FCS schools, and he ended up at New Hampshire, where in his first 2 years playing, I believe he redshirted his first year, he had 61 tackles, 12 pass breakups, and 2 forced fumbles. But then after those 2 seasons, he, wasn't satisfied at the FCS level and transferred to West Virginia, where he sat out last year due to transfer eligibility rules. And it's funny, actually, because his cousin is the cornerbacks coach at West Virginia.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah, that's a coincidence.
No tampering there, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's definitely interesting. But he played corner at New Hampshire mostly, and now he's made the move to free safety, and he seems to be excelling there as, according to Pro Football Focus, who do the analytics for college football and NFL teams, they are employed by pretty much every NFL team. They're the leading analytics company. He graded out as the 7th best player or 7th most valuable player, I guess, in college football in week 2, including being the best DB in college football in in week 2. So he had himself a week with 7 tackles and 1 highlight reel interception where he dove and made a nice grab there.
Is he kind of moving up then, like with his stock, or do you see him improving a whole bunch this year?
Yeah, I mean, I guess with the position change and moving up to the FBS level, I guess like he's definitely a guy who has an opportunity to move up the ranks and make himself more of a highly regarded prospect going into the CFL draft. Yeah, so he's definitely like, they're arguably, well, I guess there's Patrice Rene, who we'll talk about later, kind of spoiled it there, but there's Patrice Rene, Dean Leonard ahead of him, like for DBs in this year's draft class, which is going to be possibly like the best, well, probably the best DB draft class of all time in the CFL, actually. And there's Patrice Rene, Dean Leonard, Benjamin St. Just if he declares for this year's draft. Javon Holland is obviously going to be an NFL pick, but as a safety, there's another DB. So Canadians this year's draft class is just loaded. But yeah, this first game for Alonzo Adai is certainly promising for the rest of the season.
Well, we'll keep our eye on him also. You let the cat out of the bag with Patrice Rene. He's one of our CFC40. We have him ranked number 11 right now. He's DB 6'1", 205 out of Ottawa, native. Is that North Carolina? He played at Episcopal, I believe. He's coming off of a severe injury last year, isn't he?
Yes, he tore his ACL in the second game of the year and sat out all last year. So technically he's a redshirt senior right now.
Yeah.
That red shirt came from a medical red shirt last year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like it was a devastating one too.
Yeah, no kidding. ACL is always bad.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was the number 1 player on our CFC 100 list back in the day.
Yeah, number 1 in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the first Ottawa kid that kind of made Episcopal. There was a point where Episcopal was kind of like where, say, the school from Bradenton, Florida is at right now, where it was kind of the flash in the pan school, and then everybody went there for a few years, and then it kind of petered out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episcopal had some players like, well, you were doing the Penn State roster, Jonathan Sutherland. Sutherland?
Yeah.
He played at Episcopal. There was a bunch of them that went to Luigi Villian.
Luigi.
Oh,
Luigi Villian. Yeah.
Yeah.
They all played there the one year and were like, it was an unbelievable roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally remember Patrice. He was the one. He was the first one. Him and like Jesse Lakita were kind of around in the same era. They were the first Ottawa kids who really started to put it on the map.
Yeah, but Patrice Rene certainly definitely an interesting prospect coming into next year, because coming into last year, he was seen as like a guy who could almost, obviously in the CFL, cornerback isn't a Canadian position typically at all. So he was a guy who was seen as a guy who could potentially come in and be that rarity as a Canadian cornerback in the CFL. And he was like probably coming into the last season considered the number 1 prospect in what would have been this past year's draft class. But then he got hurt, and he was seen as a guy who could potentially be number 1 overall even in the CFL draft as a corner. But at 6'2", 205, he's a rangy defensive back, good cover guy, which is typically something hard to find with Canadians, obviously, those great cover guys, which is something he is. So.
Do you foresee him maybe having more of a chance at the CFL level as opposed to NFL?
Yeah, I know. Coming into last year, he was like probably going to be a day 3 NFL pick, but it's this past weekend. Well, I guess not the weekend we're talking about right now, but the weekend before. So yeah, week 2, same weekend Alonzo Adai played. He came back, and obviously this is his first game since right before he tore his ACL, and he didn't quite look like himself. Like, he graded out, like, by analytics, he graded out as it was his lowest graded game since his freshman year. And in that one freshman in that one game as a freshman, which was his lowest graded game, he only saw one snap, so it's not really fair. So it kind of like he came back, and it's understandable though how he's coming off like an injury slowly like this, especially with the off season we've had, right? So like limited training and just training camp all over the place. Conditioning's probably bad. So I see him probably speeding up. Well, hopefully speeding up again because and returning to form that like he was back in 2018, where he actually he had the lowest catch rate in the ACC of any defensive back in 2018. So.
Well, let's hope that he, shakes off the cobwebs and just continues to build on, like you said, the 2018 season. Right?
That would be frustrating. Well, I'm sure he's frustrated because he probably had a pretty good idea or vision of where he was heading, and then he gets injured, and then they change coaching staffs. So, I mean, those are two things that would play into that, because if you are the new coaching staff, you're looking at it and you're like, oh, redshirt senior who has 1 year left, and we just recruited our best 2 recruiting classes in the last 10 years. So he's probably in it that way, he's in it tough that way as well. And he's rehabbing, and you both just said he's coming through his senior year in the COVID era. So he's got like 3 things that are probably knocking on him right now.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see, like, who knows, like, when you come back from a full reconstruction, like, you don't even figure it out until you're like a month into pads with all your gear going live. So, yeah, he's got a tough road to kind of hoe the next little bit, but at least the ACC is going to do are they doing a full 10-game season? Yeah. So hopefully he doesn't get hosed by his coaches at North Carolina, who are kind of looking at a banged up redshirt senior, or maybe playing the young 3 or 4 star that they said they would get on the field right away. So.
Yeah, because he started a handful of games as a true freshman. I think he started 5 of 11 games as a true freshman. So he definitely, in his first few years, was looking like quite a big deal, and hopefully he continues that.
Yeah. Yep. So our next, moving on to Bruno LaBelle, or is it Bruno or Bruno? Bruno LaBelle. We had him ranked in 2016 as well on our CFC 100. He's a tight end, 6'4", 248. He's a Quebec kid from Montreal. Went to Momo. Is now playing at Cincinnati. He's looking to build off his 5 starts from last season. Looks like he got off to a good start this year with 3 receptions. Sorry, Quincy. What do you like about Bruno?
Yeah, last year he was backing up Josiah DeGuara, who was a 3rd-round draft pick in this year's NFL draft, to the Green Bay Packers. So Bruno LaBelle was backing him up all last year and the years before, I guess, because now he's just jumping onto the scene as a starter officially in his redshirt senior year. But in Cincinnati Bearcats offense that was very successful running the ball last year, he was an integral part of that blocking. So I see Bruno LaBelle as a guy who could potentially be go in the first few rounds in the CFL draft, first 2-3 rounds, as a fullback type guy in the CFL, kind of like Nikola Kalinic was this past year out of York, and he stepped in, started for the Tiger Cats. So I see him kind of like that, similar build. And Bruno LaBelle, obviously, he showed off his ability to catch the ball. In week 1, he had 3 receptions for 36 yards. So it's good seeing that from a guy who in the past 3 seasons only had 10 catches for 69 yards total, to see him jump off the board in his first game and get some receptions in there.
He'll totally be one of those, like, I don't know if you see that, well, you see them quite often, those H-back, fullback types. That's a Canadian position in the CFL. He'll fit right into it. He'll probably be like a legitimate contributor on special teams too. I'm not sure if he's like all the other French fullbacks that seem to hang out, if he long snaps or doesn't long snap, but they seem to carve out their niche on rosters by playing tight end, fullback, H-back, whatever, and playing on all the special teams. So I kind of see him doing that. I don't know if he has the body type that will actually even translate to the NFL. Because I mean, he'll be pigeonholed because they'll be like, oh, he played tight end in college. Well, he's not big enough to play tight end in the NFL. So, and without getting the touches, he won't kind of have that street cred. But yeah, he'll end up in the CFL. He'll probably end up with the Montreal Alouettes. He will, and he'll have like a 4 or 5 year career, and then he must have been a freaky athlete though, because in his profile it said he basically got his offer off a summer camp performance. So he must be a kind of a freaky athlete with regards to like how well he runs. So
they said he was a good route runner.
It was interesting because I went back and watched his CEGEP highlights, and back in CEGEP he was 6'4", 211 as opposed to 6'4", 248, which he is now. And he played a lot of wide out at Momo. So I think he moved pretty well. So like that even kind of made him more promising as a potential guy who could pass catches coming out of the backfield as a fullback style player in the CFL.
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't heard much about him, so I guess we'll just have to keep our eye on him at Cincinnati and see how he does going forward. The last guy we're going to talk about is Daniel Joseph. He's a CFC40. You have him ranked number 30 right now. He's a defensive end, 6'3", 260 pounds, I believe. He's out of Brampton, Ontario, but he's playing at Penn State. He's another one of the many redshirt seniors who'll be looking to finish their career strong as they've put in their time. Give us the lowdown on Daniel.
Yeah, so Daniel Joseph, he's going to be one of the harder ones to talk about because he's been sort of hidden in the Penn State depth chart over the past 3 years. Coming into his redshirt senior year, he's made plays, but he's obviously Penn State is a great team, so they have quite the depth there. But he had 29 tackles, 5 sacks in 24 games played at Penn State, where he was a rotational defensive end. And coming out of high school, he played at Lake Forest in Illinois, and he had 19 offers as a 4-star prospect, including like the likes of Penn State, Iowa, Michigan, and ironically, and North Carolina State, NC State, where he just transferred for this upcoming year. Well, not upcoming, this active year. And he put on quite the show yesterday with NC State when they were playing Wake Forest. It's good to see him get off to a good start with his new team. He had 5 tackles and 2 sacks in his NC State debut, transferring from Penn State, where he was a little more hidden, to now getting his big role at NC State. So hopefully he can keep up that production and move up the ranks for this upcoming draft class as well.
Wow! Did North Carolina State win that game?
Yeah, that was one that I was wanting to watch yesterday, but I was out last night, unfortunately. So North Carolina State took Wake Forest 45-42, but we have it recorded to me and my dad will be watching that hopefully in the next couple days.
There you go. It's interesting to see how. That's why I like the rule. I mean, there's parts of that transfer rule I don't like, but there's parts of it I do like. And that would be an example of it where a player just got buried on a depth chart and then they transition to another school, and the fresh start seems to jumpstart their football career. So I like that. Like Joe Burrow is the perfect example.
Yeah, totally.
So it's like, if this lends itself to this kid having a whole bunch more success, that's awesome for him, because to go from a rotational player, and maybe he had some sort of stigma slapped on him there by his position coach, to another school, first game out, 5 tackles, 2 quarterback sacks. That's a pretty impressive way to start your career at another institution. So that's good for him. I remember watching him when he came out. His film was like really impressive. His get off was really good, but I used to always look at it and be like, it's crazy, because back then he wasn't that heavy. I was like, it's crazy how he's 6'3" now, but back then it was like, it's crazy how a 6'2", 6'3", like 220 pound, 230 pound defensive end got like 20 offers. Even back then I was like, it doesn't translate, but he must have lit up their summer camps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's awesome.
Yeah,
when you guys are go ahead.
oh yeah, sorry. I was just saying I was just watching his high school highlights, and he was just under 240 at the time. He says 240 on his profiles, so he would have been 6'3", 240, let's say, in his senior year. But it was just hilarious. I was laughing as I see him. He played some, obviously being what is a great athlete, obviously. He played some receiver in his senior year. He was all over the field. He played defensive end, obviously primarily, but he had lots of highlights as receiver, running back, and linebacker. And I just saw him like after the catch, he was just like throwing kids as a receiver. So that I got quite the laugh at that.
Where do you see him going in the CFL draft?
If he keeps up, he'll probably get drafted in the NFL. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, like him and Adai, it's a little interesting with them both being on new teams, so it's kind of like you got to watch these guys as they go, and same with Renee coming off injury, so it's a little hard to project all of them. Same with even LaBelle, like he's a guy who's just coming into a starting role now, so it's difficult to kind of project all these guys in the draft, but I'd say they're all probably, well, obviously Hubbard is probably won't even get drafted into the CFL because he's an NFL lock.
Yeah.
But I'd say like they're probably all top 25 on like my board right now for the CFL draft.
It's a good group. Never before in the past. I'm trying to remember there's so many kids that were down on scholarship, but not just that piece. The other part was like so many of them are like legitimate starters.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the last time I saw that. I remember kids used to go and you'd be like, oh, he went to a big time school or a Power 5 school. And then you would never hear of them again. And they would just ride out their 5 years and kind of whatever. But now there's like guys who are bouncing around, and like Oklahoma State's a great example. So their two premier players on both offense and defense are Canadians. And then there's other programs where like teams have like they've just kind of assumed those leadership roles, and you guys we talked about three of them today where they grew into starters, and not just starters, and they didn't fall into it, but they're like you said, I had no idea Alonzo Adai graded out that well. When you look at the stats involved, and then like it's super impressive. So if you want to really impress yourself with high school film, Quincy, go back and watch the linebacker from Oklahoma State's high school film.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh yeah, it's like it's like Eamon running really fast and obliterating everything, and everything else looked really slow. Because he played in Calgary High School League, so. But like, there was some. It's cool to go back. We were watching it today. I don't know if you watched the NFL. They showed Saquon Barkley playing outside linebacker in high school, and he came off the edge and almost decapitated the quarterback.
Oh, jeez.
So I don't think people realize just how good of athletes they are, and how most of these guys 4 years ago played both ways. So.
Oh yeah, I maintain that professional football players are the best athletes in the world. Like, I don't know, like I'll get into arguments with friends over that sort of stuff, and they'll just talk about, like, they'll make the argument, they'll say something just stupid like, oh, these offensive linemen are just big fat guys, but it's like
they don't understand how smart they are either.
Super smart.
It's like you try running a 5-second 40 at 320 pounds.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It's unreal. Like, they're all like crazy athletes, every single one of them. So.
Well, what was the college team? Remember, I was like, look at those guys run.
Washington.
Was it Washington? I was just amazed. They were just like athletic.
Katie was on the sideline at the Washington game, the Huskies game last year. And she was amazed by what like a Power 5 Division I athlete, like a legitimate program.
Like to see in person.
How they all fit in the cookie cutter. Like they all, you know what I mean? Like they check all the boxes.
Oh,
and I don't know in the football world what they call them nowadays, but they're all just like studs. They're all dudes. Like, it's just, you're looking at them and you're like, oh my goodness. And you're like, skinny ankles, high hamstrings, has a classic V-shape upper body, and look at him run. It's so pretty.
Well, and for me, like coming from a strength and conditioning standpoint and just like, you know, looking at athletic movement, like it was like a Monet. Like it was just
like a Monet.
It was so pleasurable for me.
What the hell's a Monet?
Like art. Like it was art running.
Okay, so remember, this one is not behind the paywall, so lots of people are going to hear it. So we need to end the Monet talk.
You get what I'm saying. It was very impressive, and like to Quincy's point, these guys are athletes, and they are. I think we don't sometimes give them the credit with what we see on television.
Oh yeah. Well, they deserve to be paid well, but they don't deserve $450 million over 10 years.
Yeah, that's
Why don't you just give them just give them half the team? Why not? Oh well.
Don't bash my homie.
My homie, eh? So, anyways, that was a good group of 5 players. I like those players.
Yeah.
My favorite one of all those is Alonzo Adai. Just saying.
I think it's today was definitely a good podcast because all five of the guys are CFL. Well, I guess not even CFL, NFL, whatever. They're all draft prospects for this upcoming year. So,
Yep.
I'm just glad college football is back and that we can talk about all these guys instead of throwing out the hypotheticals.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. So it's good, and it's the only way the CFL. Well, it's probably good for the CFL scouts, player personnel, because they're not going to be able to evaluate any Canadians this year in Canada.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to dig deep onto every NCAA roster and find every kid that was somehow connected to or born in or born while flying through Canada and get them onto their draft list. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, we'll finish it off there. So that's it for us today. Thanks, Quincy, once again for your insight. It's always great to have you on the show. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of the Recruiting Masters. So be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter @ChatFootball, Instagram CFC_football, and YouTube. And don't forget to check out our digital store and keep your eyes open for our new product that we're releasing this week. It's going to be great for those of you youngsters who are just getting into the recruiting process. So this has been the Recruiting Masters, brought to you by the CFC Insider. Have a great week, everyone.